fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.
Hello. Excuse me. Welcome to Healing Outside the Box. This is our 116th show. Am I right here? 17th show. 117. Oh, my God. Oh. And my name is Rosemary Lachance, and I'm an energy healer and a spiritual therapist.
And I'm Lisa Burton. I'm a heart-centered lifestyle coach.
And we are the co-hosts for this thought-provoking series and are dedicated to providing you with food for thought, information, and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. If you know of any subjects that you would like us to discuss, or if you know of anyone who you think might make an interesting guest, please let us know. And please like us on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box, where you can learn about and see pictures of some of our past guests and ask questions and leave a comment. And enjoy the show.
Great. Tonight we are so happy to have Judy Kopman-Fried. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Judy is a licensed clinical social worker, and she is a psychotherapist with over 30 years' experience working with children and families. She graduated from Sydenham School of Social Work in Boston, where she obtained her master's degree in clinical social work. She then did a 3-year period of postgraduate training at the Center for Family Learning in Rye, New York, and there she obtained her certification in family therapy. Judy has worked in a variety of settings with children and families and has been in private practice for the past 25 years. Most recently, she obtained her certification as a guardian ad litem in order to advocate for children through the court system. She's committed to helping children process their anger in ways that benefit them and help them grow into healthy individuals. So this is going to be a wonderful conversation we'll have tonight, and I'm really excited to have you here with us.
Thank
The
you.
first question we always ask you is, what made you get into this line of work?
I think that I had an innate love of children since I was very, very young. And I remember being 16 years old and meeting somebody who had me tutor a young boy who was, I guess he must have been 12 years old. And since that time, even prior to that, I was babysitting and always just had an innate love of children and of animals too, but children mostly. And they gravitated toward me and I gravitated toward them.
Do you have children?
I have 2 children.
2?
2 children,
Surprised
right.
you didn't have 5.
I wanted 5. I actually wanted 4, but my husband didn't want any, so we settled on 2.
Oh,
That's a good compromise.
Yeah, that's all right.
So as a licensed clinical social worker, what types of children do you see in therapy?
I see all sorts of children and aged 3 to 18 years old.
Okay.
With a whole variety of different kinds of issues, from potty training all the way to adolescent difficulties, children who have are on the autistic spectrum, and families who are in divorce and custody battles with their children.
Mm.
And typically, what's the referral process? How do people find you?
They can find me through my website, which is judykopmanfried.com.
Yeah, we're going to give the information into the show.
And they find me mostly through word of mouth. I don't really advertise, and I've been in the community for a long time now, but mostly on the web or through word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So you work independently. They don't send you, the agencies don't send the children to you, right?
No, doctors send them, pediatricians send a lot, and then if I'm working with one family, they may know another family. School systems send children to me, other mental health professionals, but mostly it's word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Mostly, you know, a family had worked with me with their child and it was successful, and somebody else is asking.
Okay.
And what types of challenges do the children typically have that come to you?
They have a lot of challenges, I think, with their trying to figure out what they're feeling. They have behavioral problems, many of them, and they're confused about their behavior. They're not sure why they're doing what they're doing, and generally a parent will bring them in. Some of them have a lot of anxiety, anxiety about going to school, anxiety about their relationships with other people in school, how they're relating to other children. Adolescents often are having difficulties adjusting to their newfound identity and where they're going and what they want to do with their future, or problems they may be having with their parents. The younger children are mostly having school problems. The adolescents are much more having problems within the family.
So what happens? The parents take them to the doctor?
Parents will go to the doctor, and the doctor will, and they will be looking for a referral, or the doctor will see something with the child and will say, this child really needs to be seen by somebody. So the parent will come in and say, you know, my child is anxious, she doesn't want to go to school, or he doesn't want to go to school, or he's crying a lot, he's having temper tantrums, or the child may not be potty training and they don't know why, and the child is now 5 years old and not potty trained. There's many, many different developmental difficulties kids have, and so at the pediatrician's office, if they're showing a significant problem, they will give them my name.
And do you work with the children individually, or do you work with the parents as well?
Well, I have a different way of working with them. I generally work initially, it depends on the age of the child. With young children, initially they don't want to come in to see me by themselves because they don't know me. And parents don't want them to come to see me by themselves because they don't know me. So initially what I would do is have them come together. Sometimes I'll have the parents, if it sounds like it's a long history, I'll have the parents first come together to see me to give me the child's history and what's bothering them about the child, particularly with younger children. Then I'll have the child come in with the parent for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll ask the child and the parent if it's okay if the mom or dad waits outside, and I will be with the child alone for another half an hour, talking, playing, whatever the child feels most comfortable with. And then I have the parent come in at the end of the session for the last 10 or 15 minutes to talk with them about what's going on with their child, because parents are often the best resource for their children. I very rarely see children in therapy individually without giving feedback to parents. It's essential. It's essential. And classic psychotherapy tells us the child has its privacy, the child should have his or her own place to process their feelings, and many psychotherapists do not meet with families because they see it that it's the child's place. I do not work like that. I always give parents feedback. Every session, there's feedback for them.
And could you describe what feedback would be? Or some examples of feedback?
Depending on the age of the child and how verbal the child is, if a child is verbal, often what I'll do is there might be things that we're talking about in our session together of what the child's feeling. One child recently told me that he felt like his dad was a monster when he screamed, that he saw his father as a monster. His father has a loud voice. The father's a big man, he's over 6 feet, and this is an 8-year-old young boy. And I encouraged the child then to talk to the father about it with me present. And I will coach that child and help that child to verbalize it to the parent. And what I often do will have the parent repeat back to me and to the child what they heard the child say to them. So we call that imago therapy, and that's what we do in couples therapy often, where we'll have one member, the wife might be saying something to the husband, and the husband has to listen and repeat it back to the wife, and then he may comment on it, so we teach them how to communicate a little better. Well, I also do that with children, and it's very, very effective because sometimes the child isn't getting what the parent's saying, and sometimes the parent really isn't capturing what the child is saying. So what I will do is have them both sit on the couch facing each other, which is sometimes very difficult. And I have the child generally start by sharing what they are feeling. Daddy, when you screamed at me the other day, I was afraid you were going to kill me. I thought you were a monster. And then I will say to the parent, the father, what did you hear him say? What did you hear little Joshua say? Okay. I heard you say that when you heard me screaming the other day, that you felt I was a monster and that I was going to kill you. And then I say to the parent, ask your child if you got it. Make sure to ask them, did I get it all? And then the parent says, did I get it all? And the child will say yes or no. He'll say, no, but what I said was this. Then the parent will have a comment back to the child, and he'll say, geez, you know, that day when I was really angry, how many times did I have to ask you to turn the TV off and get your shoes on and get ready to go? I probably asked you about 5 times, Josh, and you didn't do it. And then I got louder, and that's why I screamed. And so then I will look at Josh and I'll say, what'd you hear your father say? And he'll say, I don't know. I said this. I said, what? I said, put on your thinking cap. Let's see really put it on and really put your mind. I forgot. Okay, Dad, can you say it again then? Okay. And Dad will say it again. And then Josh might get some of it, but not all of it. And I will intervene at that point, and I will say, oh, I think there was something you might have missed here. Daddy, would you say this piece again about this little thing about how many times you asked? And then little Josh will go back, and he'll repeat it again. And so then they're having a conversation. And when they're having that conversation, all judgment is taken out of it, because the only thing we're focusing on is the communication. We're not focusing on little Josh being good or bad, or Dad being good or bad. We're focusing on, are you listening to each other? And when we focus on the sound and the listening, all judgment melts away. And we just are focused on trying to get it right, trying to understand each other, and coming to a solution simply through the communication of mirroring each other back and forth. And that's a beautiful thing.
It is.
yeah.
In your opinion, do you think the child purposely didn't hear it or didn't want to hear it, to not be, I mean, it was the truth. Why do you think the child didn't really get it? It was clear and plain. Is that a psychological problem or what?
It's hard to say, and sometimes I actually try to train myself. As a therapist, we're trained to always try to figure out what someone's motivation is.
Right, that's
okay?
what I mean, yeah.
I try to unlearn what someone's motivation is. It's a very important thing for me as a therapist to not make that kind of assumption as to why. I can speculate that maybe little Josh was embarrassed because his father exposed him in front of me. That's a possibility. But it's as much a possibility that he could have forgotten because the father used too many words. So we don't really know what the motivation is, and it doesn't concern me very much as a therapist. What concerns me over time is knowing that this particular child is very sensitive to humiliation with other children, because when I'm alone with this child and he went and punched another kid, and I asked him what made him punch the kid, he will say he called me a name. So I know that this child is now sensitive to humiliation. It's very clear to me. It doesn't really matter to me that he's sensitive to it or not. I know it, and my job is to help him know it and help him figure out what he can do about it without being so overly sensitive.
Right.
So it sounds like you're really empowering the children and the parents
Right.
with tools for effective communication, whether it's between parent-child, child and child,
Yes.
and their friends. So kind of learning what your trigger might be, and then
Yeah.
a positive way to push through
Right.
the trigger.
Right. With this particular child and his father, what was interesting is what they came to was, instead of the father raising his voice, prior to him doing that, he was going to give the child a signal. And he raised his hand to let the child know that he's at like a 3 or a 4 before he shoots up to a 10. And that was what the child asked the father for.
Okay, great.
He figured it out for himself what he needed, because the sound was just too much for him.
Right. Yeah. So you bring up an interesting point. I've worked with a lot of children that have sensory processing challenges. And it's not surprising to me that if their little nervous systems are wound extra tight, that explosive communication would be something that they would really, really react to. So teaching him about his own body and letting him understand that you may be hypersensitive to someone yelling, where another child would be like, oh, okay, Dad.
Right.
You know, and just let it roll off his back. But educating him and empowering him to learn about his body and how he can compensate, if you will, positively.
Right.
When he's in those situations.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we start with that, and not only what he's in his body, but what the father's feeling in his body as well. So it's not only helping the child,
Right.
but it's helping the parent too, because the parent was not aware of when he was going to 0 to 10. So now the parent can feel it. He can, and the child actually taught the parent that. Could you not get to 10 without giving me a warning?
Right.
And he's telling his father, I want you to warn yourself also. So raise your hand so you know that your blood pressure's gone up over 140.
Right.
Okay? Raise your hand so you're at 140, so then maybe you could go down to 120. You see? So they're both teaching each other this way. The other thing I do with kids is I have them name what that thing is that they're doing. And it's a really important, effective thing. Now, I have kids who call their behaviors all different names. Every child I see has a name for his behavior. When he has a name for it, it takes it outside of who he really is.
Could you give me some examples of behaviors?
Okay. I had a
Okay.
child that I was seeing who was 7, who would lay down on the floor and have tantrums for an hour, screaming his head off beyond belief. Parents could in no way console him. When the parents either criticized him even the slightest, or he was told to do something he didn't want to do. This was a very, very intelligent 7-year-old. He was in a very good school system, really almost gifted. The parents didn't know what to do with him. So they brought him in, and the first thing I did with this child was ask him what he called the thing that he was doing when he lay down on the floor and would bang around and thrash and scream. And he was doing it in my office too at the beginning when he'd come. He would just lose control. And so while he was doing it, even in my office, I would say, oh, I'm watching this. It's really, really interesting what you're doing. What would you call that? What are you feeling? Really thrashing about. What do you want to call that? And when he was calmer, okay, he called it kung-fu-y. That's what he said.
Wow.
He said, I am having a kung-fu-y. So we had him watching himself. We got him behind that so that when those behaviors happened, he could watch himself in action. That it wasn't him who was doing it. It was a separate kind of entity that wasn't really who he is inside. It was a part of, it was like a part of something else that he just was enacting right there. And once he got a sense of what was going on in his body prior to that, oh, I feel my chest tighten. It feels like a monster truck is crushing my chest.
Wow.
It feels like a bulldozer is digging inside of me.
Wow.
Okay? It feels horrible. And he could comment about that. And he could watch that bulldozer and what was happening to it. He's now not shaming himself. He's not a bad boy. something's taking him over, and he doesn't feel in control of it. And there, with that comes awareness.
Right.
Awareness of what's going on. That's the beginning step. That's the first part. Self-monitoring and awareness, just what Lisa was saying.
I want to back up because I realized I made an oversight when I introduced you.
Okay.
The name of the show
Right.
is From Shame to Innocence, Helping Children Heal. So that was a beautiful example of that, where you're really allowing them to realize that the bad behaviors are not really who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So let go of the shame and the self-judgment.
Yeah, they don't know to let go of the shame and the judgment. And you can't even talk about the shame
At
with
that
children. I don't think it's useful. I think you can demonstrate it. And you can demonstrate it, and you can demonstrate the spiritual piece of this as well by talking with them about how are we all the same inside? How are we all the same inside? How are you and Johnny and Billy, Josh, all the same inside? What makes you the same inside? Well, we all have a heart. We all have lungs. We all have kidneys. We all have a throat, voice. So then what makes us different when we have these different behaviors? There's only one thing that makes us different, is our interpretation of that behavior. But the insides are all the same. I demonstrate it with kids over and over again in a number of ways. Sometimes we sit and we look out my window, and it'll be a cloudy day out. I'll say to them, is the sun out today? Is there a sun today? No, there isn't. How do you know that? How do you know there's no sun? Billy, how do you know? I don't really know. We know that there's clouds, but behind the clouds, the sun is always there. Even when it's dark, the sun is always there. We just don't see it. So when we act out in these behaviors, when you threw the desk at the teacher in the Catholic school, and she called me because she wanted me to see you, was the sun there, or did you just not see it? Because the sun is inside of you. It's inside of me. It's inside of Rosemary. It's inside of Lisa. You just got covered over with the clouds and you forgot that it was there.
That's
All
great.
you
Great
saw
analogy.
was the clouds. You forgot that the sun is really there.
That's a great analogy. And you do have to deal with children, everyone, when you're doing psychotherapy, from a worldly and a spiritual level.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, one without the other won't get it. It just won't get it.
Unfortunately,
important.
many people don't know that.
I know they don't. They really don't. And that's a shame.
It's
And
really
one of the
is.
reasons why I wanted you here, we wanted you here tonight, was because of all the things that are going on with children these days. And, of course, Newtown and what happened to that boy, poor boy, and what's going on, you know, the lack of communication between parents and children.
Right.
And so I think we need more people like yourself to help to explain and tell the audience that they can get this kind of help for their children, you know.
Absolutely. It's really important.
Yes, very important.
Yeah.
And the parents really have to do it. They have to seek out that kind of help.
The parents have to come out of their own shame.
Yeah.
Just because you have a child who might be acting out in some way. One of the kids that I was seeing was so sensitive to shame, but when I actually had the mother come in with this young man, it was the mother who was very sensitive to shame. She was so busy worrying about how her son's behavior was affecting everybody else but her son. And what will people think? And he won't be invited to somebody's birthday party. And this is going to harm him. And she would be crying in front of her little boy about his behavior because she was so sensitive to the shame.
See, that's the old thing that's been around for a long time. What will people think?
And this is a young woman.
You know, my mother used to say that to me.
What will people think? Right? What will they think?
So you're really, really changing the whole trajectory of a family.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to have people listen to each other. I'm trying to have them listen, and in the listening, dispel the judgment. Not think about, oh, he said that to me? Oh, how dare he say that to me? Or, my dad said this to me, and I'm going to lay down on the floor and have a tantrum. They're just words. They don't necessarily have a lot of meaning. It's just words. Happy and sad are the same word. How you perceive it makes all the difference. So what I'm working with these children on is just looking at the behavior purely as having an awareness of something that is not of you. It is not of you. It didn't come, you weren't born this way. You see? You might be born with a certain temperament. You have a child who's a little more shy, one who's a little more extroverted. You know, one needs the gas pedal pushed a little, the other needs the brakes put on them a little. But mostly the temperaments, you know, we all who have children understand we have children with different temperaments.
Right.
What's important is to understand the temperament of the child, but also to understand that what they're doing that is destructive is not meaningful in a sense of it being so big as needing to, as looking at it as it's blocking them from being who they really were born to be, which is beautiful. Innocent.
Right.
Innocent. So we're taking off the shame so the innocence can shine through. That's all we're doing. We often say that children with autism are enlightened because of that, because they are not judgmental.
Right.
They don't judge.
Autistic children?
Never judge.
No.
They don't judge at all. They are, we often think of them as in a different way because they don't reach out to communicate. They have difficulty sometimes with empathy. That's a big problem with Asperger's and autistic children. But their perception of what is a sense of nothingness.
Yeah, I've heard many different ideas. I remember I worked with autistic children, and my feeling was, and I had said that we had a naturopathic doctor on here, Dr. Scourin, and I had said to him, when I worked with this one boy I liked particularly, I don't know, something between us, you know, and I watched his actions, and it seemed to me like they were all being like having a nervous breakdown constantly, being nervous about everything, going very fast like we do once in a while, but they're doing it constantly. It's the way they are. And he said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And we have to unravel that and bring it down the best they can. They've been able to cure some people. Have you had children like that?
I've had children who are autistic, who are repetitive, but I think it's part of the way that they learn. So they keep repeating so that they can hold on to the interject. So they're repeating something. A lot of times with autistic children, what I have them do, I have a big mirror in my office. And I have them stand in front of the mirror and do those repetitive actions so they can reflect back to themselves. And it's a really beautiful thing for them.
Yeah.
Because they're learning in a sensory way. So rather than sitting with an autistic kid and having I don't do that kind of work with autistic children where I'm having them repeat back to their parent what they heard themselves because they're not able to integrate it in any way.
Right, yeah.
So for them, we will look in a mirror. We'll talk about the sameness. Oh, you have a cheek? I have one too. And we both look in the mirror. What's the same? What's different? Helping them to discriminate. Helping them to reflect. When they're hitting something, they need to feel it. Sometimes they're hitting themselves. They need to feel it. They need to feel what that's like and to watch it. Watch that. So they're integrating on all different levels. It's just a different way of learning.
Yeah, that's true.
Sounds like you have a very interesting practice. You're very
It's
varied.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Sometimes, remember the game Hot Potato?
Yeah.
You used to play when you pass the potato? So when I see a bully, we play Hot Potato. We take the potato and we say, oh, we're taking your insecurity and we're passing it to Johnny now. That's how we bully. Now Johnny's going to pass it back to you. How long can you hold on to that potato before you have to pass it back to Johnny again? We look at emotions, and we look at how the bully can't tolerate emotion, so he has to prey on somebody else. Okay? So when they're holding that hot potato, I do it in a sensory way with them. Okay? You kicked him on the bus. You called him a name. What were you feeling inside? That potato was getting too hot for you, huh? You're going to put it over here. So we play that, and we do it back and forth. We integrate on all levels of how to do that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about bullying. You know, what did you think? How did the children? Why did you think that they did that, or what's happening with all this bullying that's going on these days? You know,
There's a lot of bullying.
Yes.
What's happening is there's a lot of divorce in our society. There's not enough parenting. Women have had to go to work. A lot of it because of divorce. They financially have to work, okay? So children don't get attention. They come home, they become latchkey kids, whatever it is. No one's paying attention. It's very hard in society with all the demands now for this kind of thing. And now with technology, it's even worse because it allows children to have a lot more freedom than when we were younger. You know, we don't have that kind of, we didn't have that kind.
No.
We got 3 channels on the TV. You know,
If we were
didn't-
lucky.
If we were lucky, right? And it was a different world. But because the kids aren't getting attention, the bullying is a form of saying, I need attention, even if it's negative attention.
right? Any kind of attention.
Any kind of attention.
I've often felt that it's the bullies of our school systems that have the most answers for us as teachers.
Fascinating. How do you see that? In what way?
Because the rest of them have kind of found their way, and the bullies are saying to us, the system's not working for me.
Right.
Whether it's the system at home, school system, whatever.
Right.
So they're jumping up and down, really crying for help.
Right. They're kind of awakening us.
Yeah. So,
Right.
And
Interesting. Huh.
yeah. But my experience with my school system is, where my son goes, is that there seems to be a lot of focus on documenting the negative behaviors.
Right.
A lot of systems to track negative behaviors, but I don't see so much of what you're doing, where the children
Right.
are taught skills
Right.
on how to identify what's really the trigger for them,
Right.
and then what do you do with it.
Right.
So that seems to be a big gap that I've experienced, at least. And I know schools now, by law, they have to have, I think they call it safe communities or something. They have to have programs in place, school systems, to identify and to try to eradicate the bullying.
There's a group through the Anti-Defamation League called Words Can Hurt You, and that addresses a lot of bullying. And Margie Shapiro does that. She goes into schools and does a fantastic program for kids around.
And she's
that.
someone local?
She's someone local. Yep. She's in Hampton, actually, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is really important with children is learning to teach them how to tolerate emotions. We know that addiction is off the charts at this point for people. There's crack addiction, pot addiction, pot's becoming legalized. People, alcohol addiction. People are out there looking to numb their feelings. Obesity is at a rate beyond where it's ever been. So we know that people are medicating their feelings because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to calm themselves down. They don't believe they can calm themselves down. So oftentimes with people, not only children, adults that I see, families, couples, when the anxiety and the feelings are high, what I try to do is actually ask them to ride the wave of their emotion, to kind of understand that this emotion will pass, and not to make believe it's not there. What I want kids and parents to do is actually to love their emotions to death. And what I mean by that is, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling diminished, if you're feeling insecure, allow it to be there. And I have them sit with me, and we just sit in the session. I have them close their eyes, breathe, allow themselves to feel it. Where in their body are they feeling it? Okay?
That's a good question. Where in their body are they feeling
it?
Yeah.
And when does it shift? Within 60 seconds, that feeling is gone if somebody can ride the wave of their emotion, if they can sit with it, if they can see that it has a beginning, middle, and end. Sometimes I have them do something really simple where they're really pumped up. I have them sit and just feel their hands and draw their attention to their hands and feel the sensations in their hands. They've dropped their blood pressure at that point the minute they feel their hands and they're into their body by 20 points. It's very, and for you two who are both, into Reiki and energy healing, when they do that and they feel the energy in their hands, feel the sensations or the warmth or the pins and needles, and then they feel their fingertips, and they breathe, and then they can feel their feet or their toes. They are open their eyes, and they are in a different place. They've calmed themselves down. Children do it. They're giggling at first, but then they do it. Then I will have the parent come in and do it with the child, particularly if a child is highly anxious, teaching the parent how to help the child calm down.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need a pill for that.
Oh,
You can do that at any time.
Oh, I know. There's so many, so much pills. To
That's what I
children.
say. It's life lessons.
Life lessons.
Yeah, you're teaching them.
Right.
And commercials and doctors and everybody else have people convinced that need to give their children pills to do it. I mean, they have people convinced they need pills for everything. But it's like a sin to give children pills like that.
I think that they can learn to combat these things if they can simply learn to tolerate an emotion. Now, the little boy who told me that he was having kung fu, just so you know, this is just the epilogue to his story. One day came in and said to me as he got better, "I need to tell you a secret." And I said, "Tell me." "My mommy and daddy are having kung fu." So he was able to identify it in them. They're fighting all the time. I noticed they were having a kung fu.
Wow.
Now, how does the child deal with the parents doing that?
Well, then we talked about it. And then I have the parent come in, and then he told them how he was feeling.
Good.
"I saw you have a kung fu. How did it feel?" I make the parent repeat back what the child said. And we go back again, and we do the same dialogue.
That's great. If only parents would allow themselves to do that. They would allow themselves to help and to do that and to participate. So much could be helped. So much.
If you think about that Newtown shooter.
Right.
If you think about that young man, and I don't know, it sounds like his mother was really devoted to him. It sounds like she took him from place to place to get him help. I'm not really sure.
I don't know. I read something new came out today, and they said that, they said she spent a lot of time with him, but that she took him to, she knew he had problems, but she took him to gun ranges, and taught him how to shoot weapons.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. And they found like 1,000 DVDs in the house, the violent kinds, and that she left him alone for long periods of time when she went away.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
it's hard to know.
You really don't know. And he shot her in the head 4 times.
Right.
Why 4? Was there anger in there?
Right. And what was that anger? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the first thing I thought of when he said that.
Right. And what could have happened for this guy at a younger age? Would he have been able to say, "Oh, I'm feeling my chest"? I have another kid who calls his anger KD. He calls it, I don't know what, he calls it KD or CP, chest pain, he calls it. Him having a chest pain, he calls it a CP. So he'll feel it contracting. I wonder if this kid, if we had done that with him,
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure it could have made a difference.
huge difference.
Yeah.
And there's children, I'm sure that's going to be happening too in the future. If
Right.
just get the parents to understand this,
That they need help.
catch it, yes.
Catch
before,
it. They
right?
need help.
So let me
Right.
ask you though, because children don't come with handbooks. Parents, I think, typically do the best we can.
Absolutely.
It's a journey for us, and hopefully, we grow as we go on. But how much responsibility falls on school systems when it might not be working at home, and the school's identifying problems? Is it up to the school system? Is it up to the court systems
To what? To get the tell
To-
parents and get them help?
to get the child help? Whether it's
Oh,
bringing the family in together, or I don't know.
somebody has to do something. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
Right. And I agree that, more and more we're seeing the community and government agencies having to do things that they're not really capable or responsible to do. So I see an awful lot of teachers in psychotherapy. I will tell you, that's of all
really?
the professions, used to be nurses, teachers I see.
Because they're having to take on so much
They're
in
having
the
to
classroom?
take on so much in the classroom that they're hired to teach. They're not hired to patrol. Now they can identify a problem,
Right.
but if you look at how poorly the schools are staffed too, they've got one social worker for 2 high schools.
Oh, my God.
That's 1,600 kids, one social
Oh,
worker.
Wow.
So they have guidance counselors who are not really trained to do counseling for children so much
No.
as they're the guidance counselor is the intermediary between the child and the teacher. But they're not counselors. They're not trained. So what can we expect of the school system? I mean, school system is afraid to refer kids out because they don't want to have to pay for it. Okay? So it becomes a real hard nut to crack in this way. The agencies, DCF, the Department of Children and Families, I was seeing a worker from that. She had 60 cases, one person. Come on.
Wow.
How can the government agency be they're not staffed to do this, and it's not fair, really. So I think that it's the school's job to identify the problems,
And then what?
and then they need to talk to the parent
Right.
and tell the parent your child needs help desperately.
And if your
You
parent
must get-
doesn't do anything,
If the parent doesn't do anything, then they need to be referred somewhere,
right.
to a higher authority, whether it be the youth officer in the town or that there be a protective order. I think a lot of parents are just too busy to notice, or some intervention somewhere to help them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Oftentimes I'm finding the youth officer in the town to be a very instrumental person for helping kids. The kid will go to the youth officer, it's free counseling, the parents will come with the kid. It's more, it's a little bit more serious, and then hopefully something can take place.
That would be good, because
Yes.
someone has to do something. We just can't, everybody can't just turn it or pass the buck or turn their back or something. Everybody has to do something. And the parents naturally are the ones, but there are a lot of parents who don't get involved.
Right.
Somebody told me to ask you about Krakatoa.
Okay, Krakatoa is a great tool that I use with kids. Krakatoa is another sensory thing that I developed with children where my parking lot is wooded in the back of my parking lot,
nice,
okay?
yeah.
So oftentimes with angry little boys, what I'll do is I will have them dig a hole in the dirt, which they love to do because they love to play in the dirt. And I get some baking soda and I get some vinegar, okay? And I have them visualize the most horrific event of their life, whether they were shamed by the teacher, whether Billy hit him, whether somebody cut him off in line in the school lunch line, whatever it was, whether Daddy screamed, okay, whatever it was. I have them put the baking powder we make a volcano, really. So we dig a hole, and we're making a volcano, because now we're looking at how to mirror your emotions and how to get through an emotion from beginning to end. So there's something that they call EMDR for children, or for adults too, where they have the brain talk one side to the other so it's connecting, so that people who have been traumatized often can integrate their traumatic experience. Well, this is kind of like that, except that the child is watching it. So what I have them do is bring to mind that negative incident, put the baking powder on, put the vinegar on, watch the volcano explode. This is your emotions surging up. Watch it. And breathe. And we breathe through it until all the bubbles dissolve. A child named it Krakatoa. That's what he named it. And he says he's a Krakatologist. And he was the one who threw the desk at the teacher in the Catholic school. This kid is brilliant. And he does this, and he breathes, and he lets it go. He watches it. He watches her come in and say, "You're a bad boy." Up come the bubbles, and down they go. He hasn't touched another kid or the teacher ever again. And he does it.
So he puts that situation into that hole he dug and put that on it.
Actually,
And
what
really-
he does is it mirrors his emotions. So in other words, he was feeling angry because somebody shamed him. He's holding that in his mind. And instead of having to act on it, he can observe himself outside of himself. He observes the bubbles come up just like the emotions come up, which is not part of who you are. It is not of you, and they go away. Anything that's of you, of a child on a spiritual level, on a human being, if it's really truly you, it never changes. Everything else changes. Even we change, right? We get older. But who you truly are never changes. So these bubbles come up, and then they fade. That's not
So
of
he
you.
can release it. And
He can release it, and it's gone. And it shows him, this is not who you are. This is a piece of something, but it's not you.
it doesn't define you.
It doesn't define you. It goes away. If it defined you, it would never go away. Like the sun never goes away. It might look like it does, but it doesn't.
Right. Those are beautiful analogies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you thought of writing children's books? I could
No, I
see.
haven't done. I just love my little Krakatoa, but this is the first time I've spoken about this. Really, I felt such a need after that new town.
Yes.
Such a need to speak on children's behalf and what's going on and how everyone's judging this one or that one. Such
Yeah.
a tremendous need to do
We
it.
shouldn't let it get that far. I mean, they call him a monster. You know.
What kind of thing is
I
that?
know. And that's what I mean. He's a child like everyone else's child. And what happened to him was a shame, and nobody caught it, nobody controlled it.
Right.
And this is why I wanted you to come in the show, and whatever our audience is that can see this,
Right.
to know that they've got to get help.
Right.
When they see something,
Right.
somebody has to say something.
And that a therapist who sees your child in isolation without
Yes.
helping you to help your child,
Right. It's not a good thing.
I don't know that it's helpful. I don't know if it's a good thing or it's not a good thing. I know that children need resources. They can't be alone. It's unfair.
And most of it comes from the parents, so they need to work with the parents.
They have to work with you.
Yeah.
And if that therapist is not working with you, ask the therapist. Don't be shy to do that. Say to the therapist, "May I have a word with you? Can I talk about my child with you? Could you please give me some feedback?" It's really important. You deserve it. You're paying for a service.
That's right.
You deserve that.
Because he was in therapy, wasn't he? And he was getting medication.
I think he was getting medication.
And nobody really knew what was going on there.
No.
And see, that's
No.
another thing that's wrong. So, and then what happens? Other children pay for it with their lives.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And it's got, things have to change.
Yes, they do.
We have to say, whoa.
Right. And I think things are changing. I think parents are becoming more aware. I keep thinking these bullying incidents and these, which is a form of what happened in Newtown, I think that actually is waking people up. It keeps happening over and over again.
It does.
And something will come from it. Something positive should come from it. you know?
Definitely. There should always be something positive come from everything. Mm-hmm. I know, but can't wait. We can't wait anymore. Mm-hmm. Time to wait is over.
Yeah.
All right? Time to worry what people think is over.
Yeah.
It's time to take action.
And not worry about anything but making your child a healthy, productive member of society.
Exactly.
That's really the most important thing. With people will say self-esteem. What's self-esteem, you know? Well, what is that?
What is it? You tell us. What is
I
self-esteem?
don't know. What do you think self-esteem is? I don't know.
Thinking good about yourself. Thinking you deserve love. You deserve happiness. You deserve the good things. Mm-hmm. And low self-esteem means you think you don't deserve it.
Maybe. Yeah.
And that's a tough thing.
It is a tough thing.
Because people with low self-esteem become bullies.
They do.
I know. And they become attention grabbers and things like that. They want to be special. Mm-hmm. Because they were never made to feel special.
Right.
You know, and your parents should make you feel special. Mm-hmm. You're special to them.
Right.
But not to think that they're special in the world owes them anything.
Right.
You know, things like that.
That's a good thing to discriminate, right?
Yeah.
That nobody owes you anything.
No.
Right?
But if you're special to someone, which should be your parents are like gods
Right.
when you're growing up.
Right.
If people could only realize that your children think of you as gods. They do. You know, you have to be there for them. You have to do this. I know people have to work. I know they have to do all these things, but the children, you had the children, you know?
And when you shame them or you're ashamed of their behavior, you've automatically cut off communication with your child. You have automatically cut it off and basically said to the child, what you have to say is unimportant. The only thing that's important is that you make me proud. And that is very destructive for children because it cuts off their voice and they have no other choice then but to act out.
Right. Exactly.
You know, if that child's there to make you happy, whose self-esteem are we helping? The child or the parent?
Right.
Right?
A lot of times parents want their children, they want their children to make them proud.
Right.
I hate that. I kind of hate that, you know, when they say something, I'm proud of you.
I don't think it's a good thing.
I don't like that, to say that to somebody.
I never say to
because
children.
Because you did this one act or something. No. I've always been proud of you.
Right.
This is just a wonderful thing you did, you know. I don't like that word, proud.
I even like to say to children, how do you feel about you?
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to make me proud of you. I want you to be proud of you.
Yeah, exactly.
I want you to love what you do. How did you feel about the action that you did?
That's good.
You know? We're really teaching children how to bring heaven on earth. We're teaching them how to bring a spiritual source that will work through them.
That's right.
You know, and bring that light to the world. And anything that is blocking it, we're trying to remove it. And Michelangelo said how he created the statue of David. They said, "What? How did you do that beautiful statue?" He said, "It was already there. I just had to remove the marble." That was it.
Right.
That's what he said.
That's right.
That's what I do. Just remove the marble.
That's great.
It's
We have about
already
4
there.
minutes left.
Okay.
So, is any last words you want to say, or any questions, Lisa?
I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on the guardian ad litem
Yes.
that you started to work with.
Yes, I just got certified to become a guardian ad litem because I had found that lawyers were representing children in the courts in custody battles where there are divorces. And I wasn't getting feedback from my clients who were getting divorced that the work that was being done was sufficient for them because the attorneys are not trained to see children as a therapist. And so this was a different angle. I don't have the legal background, but I have the child welfare background. And I really wanted to be a voice for children in the courts so that they would have an advocate. So when there was a custody battle, the courts could see that it's not just having the kids go back and forth every other day. It was a very destructive thing for the kids. They didn't know if they were coming or going. They were talk about school problems. They were having terrible problems in school. The clothes were in one place, the toys were in another place, the homework was in another place. And I wanted there to be somebody who understood what a child's needs are to represent them. And so I took the certification, and I'm hoping to work with the Middlesex court system now and helping children.
That's great.
Yeah. And
That's
families in
great.
that way. Yeah.
I haven't heard anyone call attention to that kind of thing, but it's really true.
Well, it's half the problems are because of the divorce rate in the country. It's
You can't
tremendous.
just have your children go back and forth.
No.
And back and forth.
And have
no.
just one parent.
Yeah.
It makes it too hard.
Yeah.
You wonder where bullying comes from. No attention.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, any last words or any special cases you want to tell us about, or
No,
anything?
I just want to thank you for having me, and I really hope that the world can become a better place and can learn and know, just like Lisa does, her child care center is centered on little children. This is the age you really want to work with them at. It is crucial not to think that a 3 or a 4-year-old can need help is ignorant. It's the best age for children to get help. It's the healthiest age. 3, 4, 5, 6, right there, you can make a world of difference. And I hope that everybody knows that they have the power to make a world of difference for a child. So
I've worked with Lisa. I've helped her out a few times, and I had never been in that kind of a scene before. And I listened to her, the way she talked to those children, and the way she asked them how they felt and what they were thinking and doing. And I thought, why is she asking them? How are they going to know? But they knew.
they knew.
Yeah.
And I was like,
2-year-olds know.
yeah,
know.
They
I
can feel it too.
I learned so much by
Right.
being with you.
Right.
You know, she's really, really good at it.
Thanks.
You know, And,
Children
Well,
are like
it's important.
animals.
It's important.
Remember, they're closer to the source.
Yeah.
They really are. You see the light shining through them, they're closer.
Well, they're just incarnated. They're fresh.
Right, they're
and
fresh.
They're still
and they're-
looking,
right.
remembering their other
And they can
life on the other
sense.
side. Yeah.
What's beautiful and what's not. Yeah.
All right, dear. It's been wonderful evening.
You
It's
too.
gone fast. It's
I
time
know.
to
Thank
give your
you.
information. So I can't shake your hand, but
Right.
I'll hug you after the show.
Great.
Okay. All right. To contact Judy Kopman-Fried, her website is www.judykopmanfried.com. Her phone number is 203-269-3488. And her email is jkopmanfried@gmail.com.
To learn more information about this show or any of our past shows, please contact us at healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com. To reach Rosemary Lachance, you can reach her at 203-627-7966 by phone, or her website is www.rosemarylachance.com. To reach myself, you can try me at 203-804-0024, or my website is www.theonejoy.com. And we are also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box.
All right, tonight's quote is, "Since you alone are responsible for your thoughts, only you can change them. You will want to change them when you realize that each thought creates according to its own nature. Remember that the law works at all times, and that you are always demonstrating according to the kind of thoughts you habitually entertain. Therefore, start now to think only those thoughts that will bring you health, happiness, and inner peace." That's by Yogananda. Thank you for
Wonderful.
joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Good night.
Good night.
Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand. Fear's not allowed, where dreams can be lost or found. As you look out through the window,